This is Pastor Jeff Chavis. I'm the pastor of Church Online. We're a unique online community of faith. You can find us at churchonline.com, but we spell that uniquely CHRCH, Church Online, because we say all that's missing is you. This morning, I want us to talk about how not to pray. Now, that may seem like a strange subject when what we're talking about today is prayer, and we're going to pray for a whole bunch of people today. But Jesus did give instructions in how not to pray. Now, we're probably very familiar with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. We probably learned that when we were young. But at the beginning of that in Matthew's gospel, that's in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. And he's just got done telling a whole lot of ways not to pray. And then he says, therefore. So we need to always know what the therefore is there for. So let's look back just before the Lord's Prayer or the model prayer in Matthew chapter 6, start in verse 9. And Jesus is going to talk about how not to pray. Listen to these words. Matthew 6, and we'll go 5 through 8. And when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the streets, that they may be seen by men. Assuredly, I tell you, they have their reward. But you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you shut the door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place. For your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. And when you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathens do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Therefore, do not be like them, for your Father knows the things you need before you ask him. In this manner, therefore, pray. And then we go into that very famous prayer that Jesus taught. But it starts out by saying how not to pray. And by the way, just prior to this, in the first section of chapter 6, he tells them how not to give. And in both cases, he uses the phrase, don't be like the hypocrites. Now, when you think of that word hypocrite, of course, we think someone who says one thing and does another. That's how we might define a hypocrite in our age. But in their age, the word is the same word that you'd use for an actor on the stage. Now, this is not saying anything is wrong with acting per se, but it's the idea that if we're acting in front of people in our religious manner, then as he says, they've got their reward. So the first thing he says is don't pray standing on the street corners. Don't do it publicly. Again, does that mean I shouldn't be praying now on the radio, or people should not be praying in their churches publicly? No, that's not what it's talking about. But the bulk of our prayer should be done in secret. It should be done just between us and God. And especially, it's the motivation behind it. Why does a hypocrite or why does an actor perform a prayer, you might say? And it says there, so that they will be seen by men. They want people to see them praying. It's not a matter of the heart at all. It's a matter of trying to please people and impress people, maybe impress people by their many words. And the idea is we don't want to be that way toward God. This is honestly, prayer is a discussion between us and our Heavenly Father, between us and God, and laying our heart out to God. And it's not about any performance at all. It should never be that way for us. It should always be a matter of us just speaking and saying those words. The other part of it is we're supposed to do it in a manner that is not vain repetition. In other words, repeating the same phrases and words over and over again. And as he says, as the heathens do. And just so you know and have a sense what he's talking about, think about those pagans in the first century. They had their pagan temples and altars of worship, and it was very common for them to repeat the same phrases over and over. And it says here that God will hear them because of their many words. It's not about show, and it's not about repetition. Our prayer could be as simple as, Lord, help me. Lord, give me your wisdom. Lord, give me your strength. Just a simple prayer really is all it takes, because you see, the key verse here is in verse 8, your Father knows the things you have need of before you even ask him. That's an amazing statement. God knows what I'm going to pray for before I even pray it. Of course, when we think about that, then we might think, well, do we need to pray at all? Of course we do. Now, we don't need to pray because God needs to hear our words. We need to pray because we need to pray. It's for us. It's for us to recognize the connection between us and God. It's for us so that when something comes through, maybe something we've been praying for, we give all glory and honor to the God who hears our prayers. I love the way Warren Wiersbe says it, and this is in a commentary that is related to this passage specifically. He says, prayer is a miracle. The sooner you realize this fact, the sooner prayer ceases to be a dull routine or a religious burden. It becomes an exciting adventure that molds your life and the lives of those for whom you pray. Again, he says prayer is a miracle. Prayer is an adventure. It was never designed to be something that we do for show. It was never designed to be this difficult sense of praying the right words and praying those right words over and over again. No, this is supposed to be this discussion with a holy God. And then when we see those things happen, wow, how that changes our lives. When you think about the things that you have prayed for, just think about things that you know that God has answered your prayers in. Then you recognize exactly what Warren Wiersbe is saying, that it's not this dull routine or religious burden, it's an exciting adventure.